All right, welcome back to the program. The number to call in, 844-900-7243, 844-900-7243. We'll still be talking about the RNC convention, but I want to shift for a little bit. I want to talk about Biden possibly being kicked out on his hiney, and I felt like there's nobody better to talk to than Eric Lindrum. He is with AM Greatness, also part of the Right Take podcast. Eric, welcome to the program.
Carl, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a while since my last time, but this time especially, given the events of the last week, it really feels like 1,000 lifetimes.
Man, and I got to tell you guys, listen, check out Eric's work on AM Greatness. Literally, I don't know how he does it. I used to struggle to write a column a week. I think this guy pops out a column an hour. It's insane. But anyway, all right, Biden held tense call with House Democrats that you're writing about. They're trying to get this guy out of here. Eric, do you think it's going to happen?
At this point, yes, I think it will happen. As this article documents, there are now a lot of Democrats that are fully in support of Biden dropping out. And this tense call, as you talked about, it was held Saturday before the assassination attempt against President Trump with over 100 Democrat members of Congress. Biden was about 30 minutes late to the call. That's a good sign right there, number one. And among other things, they said he gave incoherent answers, the same stuff we saw in the debate. And he had a very tense exchange with Congressman Jason Crow of Colorado, a former Army Ranger who had earned a Bronze Star. And apparently he just started yelling at Congressman Crow. He, of course, immediately drew and Joe's own late son, Beau Biden, who also earned a Bronze Star, which just goes to show in public and in private, he brings up his dead son, even though that has nothing to do with what's being talked about. And members of Congress on the call were, quote, aghast at what was happening, to be seen literally burying their faces in their hands because they could not believe what they were hearing. He yelled at Congress, yo, you may have earned a Bronze Star, but what did you do for NATO? I built NATO. Like, you tell me. And he started yelling. Behind closed doors, he's just as unhinged as he is in public.
Yeah, and I wouldn't doubt it, especially if you have dementia. I mean, but you know, something that I found interesting, too, about your column here, Eric, and tell me if this is normative, you know, in the D.C. area. But 100 members of Congress, let me, it may sound like a stupid question, but is that because whomever set up the call, the Zoom call, wanted those 100 members to convince them that it's time to move on from this guy? Or is that just, hey, that's normative. That happens, that happens all the time.
Even in the post-COVID era, I haven't heard of a call with that many people on it. And when you consider the number of people, it's not surprising that details have since been leaked because, two men struggle to keep a secret between each other, right? The quickest way to, keep a secret between three people is if two people are eventually not in the equation anymore. That's a PG version of the saying. So, yeah, I think it was only a matter of time before we heard details about this. And, yeah, that just shows it's an all-hands-on-deck thing. When you have that many Democrats involved, they know that this is make or break, do or die. And he once again failed the test. It's like all these interviews he's been doing in the mainstream media with Lester Holt and George Stephanopoulos post-debate. They're supposed to help rehabilitate his image, but they're just making him look worse. It's unbelievable how bad he's been.
I got to tell you, Eric, I think it was the dumbest thing ever for him to go out and do interviews. I think he should have, and I hate to give Democrats advice, but I'm like, let the RNC ride. I mean, somebody just tried to kill Trump. Just lay low. And then, I guess here and there you got to make some important meetings or whatever. But I'm not going to do 1,000 interviews. I mean, it's insane, especially when you haven't been doing interviews in the first place. It's just totally dumb. All right, so check this out. Obama turns on Biden. The pressure, Obama turns on Biden, which I suspected all along. But this is from the New York Post. I want to get your take. Former President Barack Obama is pressuring President Biden to reconsider his 2024 run for re-election. According to a new report, Obama and Biden have already spoken once since the debate debacle on the June 27th. But the former stressed during that conversation that his old running mate's chances of beating Donald Trump were greatly diminished. Also, there was a pollster, I forget his name, that apparently had given Biden's inner circle some information. Like, if this guy goes on, he's going to get his butt kicked, and so is the rest of the Democrat Party.
Absolutely, yeah. There have been several polls that show that Biden is horrendously unpopular, even with Democrats. There was an Associated Press poll released on Wednesday that showed 70% of voters overall support Biden withdrawing. And of those, 65% of Democrats, that's 2/3, 65% support Biden dropping out. There was another poll from ABC News before that with 67% of voters thinking that Biden should drop out. And yeah, as you pointed out, that was two big drops that came, I think, today or maybe late last night from Axios and Washington Post. Axios is one of the more strategic ones, kind of like Politico. Axios is an outlet that Democrats run to when they want to sound the alarm. Yes, Obama has now privately expressed his doubts about Biden's capabilities. And he's still staying silent, like the Clintons. But that public silence is basically complicit when you look at the Democrats who are actively, aggressively trying to get rid of Biden. And as Axios says, three big Democrats in Congress: Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and the former Speaker Nancy Pelosi are actively trying to get Biden out. Axios literally describes Pelosi as, quote, a mastermind of the campaign to get Biden out, end quote. When you are a Democrat and Pelosi is your enemy, that is a bad place to be in. She is the strongest congressional leader in the modern history of the Democratic Party, a shrewd politician. She may be older than Biden, but she still is very sharp and has great political instincts. And if she thinks it's time for Biden to go, his political days are numbered as far as I'm concerned.
Wow. Do you think that Jill Biden would listen to her? Because, and this is just my opinion, but I look at Jill Biden as kind of an Edith Wilson. I wonder how much she's doing behind the scenes, to be frank. Do you think she's willing to give up that lifestyle? Can she see the writing on the wall? Are they making it so? Are they threatening to take? I heard today they might be threatening Biden, or they may have threatened Biden. Listen, if you don't go, you don't get a library. Have you heard anything about that?
I did hear that. Yeah, it's the difference between whether or not Biden is, quote, a hero of history, or whether or not he gets a presidential library or not. There's no question Jill Biden is the one person in the world who wants Biden to stay in office more than anyone else, even more than Hunter, as far as I'm concerned. She is a very greedy and horrible, power-hungry person. She's always wanted to be first lady. But when it's down to just the family, who are obviously going to support her no matter what, and it's everyone else, Obama, the Clintons, Jeffries, Schumer, Pelosi, it's just a matter of time. One of my coworkers actually had the theory in mind. I think it's a good theory, that this is just the classic negotiation tactic of stall for as long as possible. Make the other party more desperate in the negotiations, that they will offer you a higher quantity and higher quality concessions, so that when you finally say, all right, I'll take the deal, it's the sweetest deal possible. Pardons for Hunter, pardons for Jim Biden and the other,
right?
Really nice, cushy deals. Then they will finally say, okay, Biden now bow out gracefully, quote unquote.
That is interesting. And apparently he's looking at some type of polling, internal polling, to see whether or not Kamala Harris polls better than him or just as good. But from what I understand, she doesn't do any better. Even amongst black women, she doesn't do as well as the hype seems to let on. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong at all. One issue that has been brought up is that Kamala Harris is the child of immigrants. It's not like she is descended from generations of African Americans here in the United States. Her father was Jamaican and her mother was Indian. So you have, plenty of African Americans who basically say, she passes herself off like, she's descended from civil rights marchers or slaves, when that's just not the case. But yeah, she's horrendously unpopular. This is a theory some of my friends have floated. Not sure if I agree with it, because Democrats have never been one to cut their losses. They ruthlessly pursue victory. But it is possible that, given Biden's horrendous debate performance, and especially given what happened on Saturday, the historic nature of President Trump narrowly surviving that assassination, the images that will now be in the history books 30 years, 300 years from now, 3,000 years from now, we will be talking about these images of President Trump with a fist in the air and blood is all over his face. They know they can't beat that. So possibly, and I don't want to make Republicans complacent here, we should still pursue victories if we're 10 points down. They may Kamala Harris and whoever her VP is to be thrown into the meat grinder. You guys will lose against Trump in 24.
All right.
We'll get some new rising stars like
Eric
Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer to run 28.
Listen, we got to take a hard break. If you'll stick with me for one more segment, I got a few more questions that I want to ask you. Please subscribe to my podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. Like it and share it. I would appreciate that. The Carl Jackson Show is where you can find it. Also, all things social media at The Carl Jackson Show. Eric Lindrum of AM Greatness, a wonderful columnist there, and also a co-host of the Right Take podcast. Eric, where can people find you online? Where's the best place to go?
As you said, amgreatness.com, my article's there. And also I am on X, formerly known as Twitter, at The Right Take Pod. Always got some really hot takes there. Pinned at the top of the account there is my latest column about President Trump, the historic nature of the assassination attempt he survived. It is simply titled, The Chosen One.
Fitting. Listen, I mean... that was insane. That was insane. The fact that he turned his head the moment that he did, and I mean just a wide open, easy shot, amateur. I mean somebody that trained for a short period of time could have made that shot. Just the failure of the Secret Service and the fact that he's still alive today. Nothing less than a God-ordained miracle. Absolutely insane. We even talked about that yesterday. The guys here, Lou, Sean, and Zach shared with me some information, biblical stuff that was just like, just insane, Anyway, all right. So, Biden. Listen, let me ask you this. Do you think it's possible? Because I don't want conservatives to get lazy. I mean, we have momentum right now, but let's be real. We're still 3.5 months away. Do you think it's possible that he'll hold on until next week? What is it, July 21st? Possibly survive this roll call? Is there any way? Because we got this headline last night, Eric. All right, Biden said he gave an interview to a gentleman at BET. If I'm told there's some type of medical condition, I'm paraphrasing, then I may step out of the race. Voila. He has COVID. He has mild COVID. Zach brought something to my attention. He said he was sick during the debate. So if that's true, the guy gets sick an awful lot. But if he holds on to July 21st, do you think he can? Let me ask that. Do you think he can? Do you think he will if he starts feeling better, quote unquote?
I think the health thing, it is awfully convenient, isn't it? He says, medical condition, 24 hours later, COVID. No, we don't do conspiracy theories here. Listen, there's no question he is a stubborn old man, and that is most likely exasperated by his dementia. And again, his wife, the closest person to him, obsessively wanting him to stay in, as well as the rest of his family, his brother Jim and his son Hunter. The thing about the Democratic Party is that is a party where the machine, the party boss, metaphorically speaking, those are the ones who control everything, all right? The Republican Party does not quite have that problem, thankfully. If the Republican Party was like that, Trump would never have been the nominee in 2016, and thank God that's how it turned out. But they did everything to stop Bernie in 2016 with the superdelegates. They did everything to stop Bernie again in 2020 with the very strategic withdrawals after, the first three primaries. This is a party where the political machine, there's multiple faces to it. They all kind of come together to form the blob that the party is. When they have decided collectively as consensus, nothing is written on paper. There's been no vote taken, but those in power have made up their minds. It will be done one way or another. I don't know, some more congressional investigations maybe. So I think they will eventually get their way.
Yeah, I'm starting to believe. And listen, it's weird because I was vacillating with this thing. I was like, they're bringing in Newsom, and then Newsom got pimp slapped by Ron DeSantis in that debate. And then they started saying, what are you doing, Newsom? And they started throwing shade at him. And I'm like, okay, I guess they're not going to go for Newsom. I guess Biden is going to, I guess he's going to stay in this thing. But if he's really taking the party down, I think you're right. I think they bribe them, quite frankly. And if you don't go, that stuff that, that audio that we didn't release with Robert Hur, maybe that gets released. Maybe information that we let slide, gets released. Maybe Hunter doesn't get that pardon. Maybe you get in trouble yourself. I don't even know if he can comprehend that stuff, but certainly Jill can.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, like I said, when the family is the only one left, There is undoubtedly enough pressure that can be exerted. It's just a question of how much. When all the others, Schumer, Pelosi, Obama, the Clintons, they all want him gone, he will be gone. And like you said, yeah, others who've been talking about like Newsom, again, I can see it being a situation where the Democrats know they're probably going to lose. And again, let's not get complacent. Let's continue campaigning for Trump as if the worst case scenario that comes out of that, worst case, quote unquote, is we throw in even more effort and he wins 400 electoral votes instead of 350 or something like that. But yeah, right. I can see them saving someone like Newsom or Whitmer that they think is more viable for 2028. Yeah, so they let her be the nominee, and then she picks someone else who have much of a political future, like J.B. Pritzker in Illinois.
I would think that Shapiro would be their best bet. I really didn't think that until the assassination attempt. And apparently, even though he doesn't have much of a track record, he's a likable governor. I think he handled the situation after the Trump assassination attempt in calling the family. So I think he elevated his status if Democrats are sensible. But I think you're right. Honestly, if they get rid of Biden, I think that they would, let Kamala run. Let her lose. She can keep all of that money. She's the only one that can legally. Or if they were to throw her under the bus, maybe they would run somebody else and just use that money because the DNC can use it, right? They can use it for senatorial races or House races or what have you. We've got about 40 seconds.
Yeah, the money is a big question. And again, that's why someone like J.B. Pritzker, who comes from a very wealthy family, may come in. We know for a fact there are plenty of donors who have explicitly said, we will not donate one more penny if Biden is the nominee. So just getting rid of Biden should ideally bring some more money in to replace the money he already raised.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Actually, I have a headline somewhere in here where one donor is threatening even people that stick with Biden that they won't get money from him if they stick with Biden. So the pressure is on. Eric Lindrum, check him out. Check out his columns at AM Greatness or amgreatness.com. Also at The Right Take Pod. Eric, thanks so much, man. Take care.